On. Much better. Normally I don't have a problem with shouting at people. As I say, I'm German, I do that all the time. But I'm having a cold, so it's nice to have a bit of a relaxing on my voice. Добро пожаловать. And добрый день. Как дела? Хорошо? Что? Я не говорю по-русски. So today we're going to talk about the awesome parts of JavaScript, but before we do that, I like to talk about software development in general. I mean, one of the biggest problems in software development is that it's just basically a lot of work to get done. Most of the projects are large. By the way, this is Mrs. Hamilton with the source code of the Apollo mission. The other two photos are found on the internet. TM. And software development doesn't just mean that we have to do a lot of things. I know the pictures can't be seen on the wonderful yellow light, but it doesn't matter. The thing is, software development is hard. And software development is just not hard, it's also rough. So this is an ATM with a blue screen. And this is the display in the Rome airport showing an Internet Explorer error message. And then we have the Amsterdam airport showing a wonderful terminal window on Windows, on a pretty old Windows, if I see that correctly. It's probably Windows 2000. And here we have Pokemon. You may have noticed that I may be involved with Pokemon every now and then. So here we have a templating error. So basically this is a medal that says 0, like curly braces 0, curly braces 1. That should probably not be visible, right? So software development is rough. This is in a restaurant. This should not be, the menu says please turn on your computer, which I did not order. I wonder what happened if I ordered that one. Like, can I have a please turn on your computer? And I go, what? And I'm like, well, it says on the menu. So that's me. Yeah, so software development is rough and it's not all fun and games. This, by the way, is a legit bug that we had in our application. So, in short, writing software is a lot of work. It is actually pretty complicated because we have to deal with a lot of things, and we are in conditions that are non-optimal. I mean, our software may run in conditions that we don't even know they will be put in. Internet Explorer was probably not designed to power airport display systems. Windows 2000 or Windows 95 or Windows 98 were definitely not designed to run on ATMs, yet they still do. So we have to basically embrace the things that we don't expect. Sometimes we also have to work with things that we should expect, but we just tend to forget. So for instance, when you test in your office, you have a good internet connection, hopefully. If you're not having a good internet connection in the office, my apologies. And you don't expect the network to not be available or not be responsive, so you may actually forget about that, and then you get weird errors like the one in Pokemon, because that's what happens when the network is not there to actually deliver data. And then you get some bugs like this, where you're just like, oh, I entirely forgot that there's other places in the world that I actually, okay, fair enough. So this was like a sign bug. We had a sign error somewhere. And there's a bunch of things we do every day to cope with it. And when we start our careers, it looks more like this. Googling the error message, the definite guide. Copying and pasting from Stack Overflow, that's a new one. That's like the hot shit right now because Stack Overflow came around. So basically you can just Google everything or just go to Stack Overflow. Trying stuff until it works, that's the classic, right? We've been doing this for ages. So yeah, this is more or less what it feels like sometimes. It's like, oh God, so I depend on a thing that depends on a thing that depends on a thing that I have no idea what it actually, or how it actually works, or what it actually does below the surface. And this gives me an error message that I do not understand. So for instance, a couple of days ago, I was seeing timeouts in some proprietary code that does some caching for us. And it goes like, class cast exception. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, that makes sense that a class cast exception causes a network timeout. What? So what I did is I literally Googled the error message and I got a thread on Stack Overflow asking like, the fuck is this? And then people go, I don't know. So things are hard, things are tricky. And oftentimes we pride ourselves in writing code because it feels like being a hero, right? You have an error and probably production goes down and customers are calling and complaining about problems, and you are the hero that jumps in and does things and writes code, and then everything is good again. So it's like heroic effort, like, is it a plane? Is it a bird? No, it's a programmer fixing a bug in production. And it feels like sometimes we are basically just machines turning coffee into code, or we pride ourselves in writing code, so that leads to weird things like, for instance, temporary workarounds. I've been there, I've done that. We had a hilarious situation where someone in a company that I joined, so that they had long-running projects, and someone somewhere 3 years before I even thought about joining the company, 3 years before that, and he left like a year before I joined, so we had a website that went down, and we're like, what the hell happened? We haven't really touched anything. And it turns out that there was a minor PHP update that came with a new version of some library, and someone far ago, long time ago, thought it's a reasonable thing to basically, he had to do some image conversion, and he was literally using a tool that was, so basically it was a shell call. So it was calling a program that was installed on the computer that was dynamically linked to a certain version of the library that no longer existed. So, and the update with PHP actually installed a newer version of that library, and then everything broke. And I was sitting there like, okay, so it's not converting images, but I don't understand why. And then I was digging into it, and the problem was, it was the last day before I went on vacation, so it's like, okay, I really want to fix this quickly. Okay, you know what, I'm gonna just go into the backups, get this one file, copy it, and then symlink it here, so that it looks like it's there, and then it's hopefully not gonna complain anymore, and it stopped complaining. It's a horrible solution, it's not an actual solution, but it made the problem go away and me go on vacation. And that's a couple of years ago. I'm not proud of that, to be honest. And I came back and I'm like, you know what? This thing over there that I did back then makes me really uncomfortable. We should properly fix it. And then business goes, nah. And I'm like, what do you mean, no? Well, it works. Yeah, but it's gonna explode any time. It's a ticking bomb. And they're like, we don't care. Well, what do you mean you don't care? Well, the customer no longer pays us for maintenance. I'm like, okay, but that's a jerk move. And there was more moves that led to me leaving the company again, so yeah. But we do these temporary workarounds, and it's in quotes because temporary really means forever. There's nothing as constant in time as a temporary workaround. It's gonna stick around for a while. So how about we not do temporary workarounds, we do them correctly at the first time. The thing is, when writing code, oftentimes things change, right? So probably back then, the 3 years before I joined the company, it was the only way to do this, because I think it was long before ImageGD, so the library that actually allows you to manipulate images in PHP wasn't properly tested and working probably. So they had a workaround that was not really a workaround, but the actual solution at the time. But things changed. The thing is, when things change, they usually get better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the things that we did before are now bad. It just means that we have easier ways to achieve the same result, but once we have achieved the result, we should not care that much anymore. That doesn't mean that you should let like really old crappy stuff lie around and rot. You should clean up your code base in certain circles. However, it doesn't mean rewriting your front end every 6 weeks. And that's something that I see in JavaScript recently a lot, like, oh, you're using, so like 2 years ago, Angular is the shit, it's amazing, it's great. Look, we built this application that performs really well, and it's slick, and it's smooth, and it's nice, and it works, and the code is clean, and everything is great. And then React comes along, and they're like, no, Angular is crap. It's horrible. Wait, but yesterday you said that you have clean code, and it's nice, and it's fine. Yeah, but it's crap, because there's React, and everything is much better. But the application is fast and works, and I can maintain it, and you can maintain it, and we all know we had issues with Angular, but we know how to solve them. Yeah, but React has no issues. It's not gonna have any problems ever. It's the final last thing, it's the last step. And then they're like, actually, you know what? Maybe it's not the best thing. Maybe we should go to WTF.js because it's better, it's nice. So they keep rewriting things, and it's like, So what did we do? Oh, we wrote our entire application, which is amazing for like doing this in a week or something, or 2 weeks. We had 2 weeks and we rewrote our entire application into React. Cool. But what does the user get out of this? Oh, it's much nicer. So is it faster? Not really, but it's nicer. But is it better for the user? No, because he doesn't see that, but it's awesome. So it's like you're trying to convince yourself that everything is better now, but the user actually does not see anything. So it might have been better spending these 2 weeks in solving the actual problems. Maybe something on the back end is slow. Maybe something in the front end gives an error message that no one understands. So it would have been better to actually fix these problems that the user faces. Like you get, for instance, a weird error message that says like, undefined is not a function, and the user goes, what? How about fixing that instead of rewriting your entire thing? So focus on the actual problems, focus on the issues that matter, and pro tip, your technology choice does not matter that much. So what if I told you about the awesome parts of software development and JavaScript? What if I told you that it's not always about technology, it is about the people. And that starts with your own team, okay? So you might be a brilliant developer. I think I'm okay as a developer. But as a team, we are amazing. And as a community, we are even better. Because if my team has a problem that we can't solve, I'm pretty sure there's someone in here, in this audience, going, I had that problem and I know how to solve it. And that's why Stack Overflow is so popular, because we can basically grow our team indefinitely, which is amazing. And there's so many great people that I met during a bunch of presentations at different conferences and different communities. And all of them are very helpful, very, very nice, very supportive. Even though sometimes we shit on others without noticing. So when we say, for instance, there's someone, just imagine, you're someone building a tool that works really, really great for many things. But there's one thing that it doesn't do correctly, and you know, but you don't know how to fix it, or you don't have the time to fix it. So you spend a lot of time, instead of spending it with your family and friends, you spend it in front of the computer writing this tool. And then someone comes along and says, I tried to use it for this one thing and it was crap. How does that feel? That doesn't feel very good, does it? So please don't be that person. Don't shit on others. If you use it for something where it doesn't work, improve it or help improving it. If you can't improve it, then at least point out there is a problem and then see a discussion evolve around it. It's a team sport. And I would like to point out that even though you might be a great developer these days, you haven't always been. We all started somewhere, and this somewhere was sometimes very confusing. This is an actual graphic that the Swiss television used to explain the weather phenomenon, and they literally did this. It's a bunch of question marks, a bunch of lines, and a bunch of arrows. Feels like starting programming these days, because we tell programmers these days, especially web developers, back in the days when I started and I asked someone, how do I get started with web development? That was when I was 10, I believe. When I was 10, I asked someone that I know that did software, how do I do web development? And he says, all you need is a browser and a notepad, or any editor really, text editor. And I got started, and I wrote a horribly looking HTML website. I'm like, my site looks crap. It's like, oh, there's CSS. Okay, so I used CSS and made it look less crap. I'm still bad at design, so it looked crap, but it looked pretty good for what I thought it would be looking like. So I did that, and I'm like, okay, but I want this to, when I press the button, this and this thing should happen. And he's like, oh, JavaScript. And I learned JavaScript, and I did things move and everything. I did all the bad things. Like, you remember these websites that when in wintertime had snow on them? I did that. And I'm proud of it. No, I'm not really proud of it. It was horrible. Or you remember that when you moved your mouse cursor, then there was this text that went with it, like, woo! And it said like, hello, welcome to my website. So it was bullshit, but it was very, very easy to get started, right? And these days, what do we tell people? Oh, you want to get started in web development. Okay, so you'll need a browser, and then you'll need Webpack, React. How about some CSS min and probably SVGO for the SVG files? Oh, icon fonts, but don't use icon fonts that use PNGs or GIFs. Use them that use SVGs, so they are more performant. Oh, and then so to get all these tools, you should also have NPM, and for NPM you need Node. Also, oh yeah, actually for React you can probably install it using Bower. I'm not entirely sure, but no, you don't have to because Webpack takes care of that. And people go, what? which is this situation. It's like, oh yeah, the weather phenomenon is actually pretty easy. So there's like a bunch of lines going here, and they go wobbly, 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 and then there's some arrow going like this, and then there's an arrow going like this over the mountain. So here's a small mountain, and here's a higher mountain, and then there's an arrow going like this, and then there's some blue area down here where the wobbly lines go into. But this wobbly line actually goes out of it. So, and then there's this arrow again, and then there's this arrow that points up, and I have no idea what's happening, but it's actually pretty simple. Right? I mean, just look up the sky and you see it. So, don't do this, okay? Let people make mistakes. Let people start slowly. Give them hints, give them help, and when they have a problem, help them out. It's like, oh, I have this problem, my website is very slow, and then you go like, well, your website has 5 megabytes of images that are not displayed. They're just loaded and then hidden via CSS, so maybe the wind, it's onto us. Okay. I'm not nervous. No, I can hide below the lectern, so I'll be good. It's just you guys. Anyway, so let them have mistakes. Help them out with the mistakes they make. Get them growing rather than having to jump to conclusions. Because if you jump, you use all these tools without understanding what actual problems they are trying to solve. So another thing is we all have tools that we love and we get very, very opinionated about them. So I still use Browserify, and I get a lot of hate on the internet for that. It's like, why don't you use Browserify? There's Webpack. And then in the same conversation thread on Twitter, someone else goes like, Webpack? Ooh, that's so 2015. You should totally use System.js. And I'm like, what problem are we trying to solve here? And then they just ignore me and start like fighting over their tools. And then someone goes in, but how about Bower? And then all hate goes to him. And so it's like, why? Why do we have to do this? Here's the thing. There's lots of different building blocks. And the cool thing is these different building blocks allow us to build different things. I don't want to build the next Facebook. Well, I want to make as much money as Facebook, but I don't want to build the exact same thing because that would be silly. I want to build something new. I want to build something different. And here's the thing. I may need a different building block for that. If I want to build bridges, this building block might be nice. But if I'm trying to build, I don't know, a scaffold for something, then this building block is probably crap, and this one is actually nicer. So know your different building blocks and choose the one that's actually solving the problem you're having or you're trying to solve. And here's the thing. This is going to blow your head. This is going to blow your mind. I'm sorry, this image is funny. Just look it up online later on. This is going to blow your mind. It's all about choice and flavor. So whatever you're going to pick, it's going to have good times and bad times. Or good sides and bad sides. You're going to love some bits, you're going to hate the others. Right? It's whatever you pick. React, ooh, the virtual DOM, awesome, it's quick, it's fast, it's nice. But then there's problems with I don't know what. Angular, oh my god, the syntax looks okay, and TypeScript, and woo, but I don't know, I don't like the way that it compiles things. I don't know. Or I hate TypeScript, or whatever. So it doesn't really matter exactly what you pick, as long as you pick a thing that makes you productive. But here's the thing, just because it makes you productive doesn't mean that it makes another person productive. So if they pick another tool, if someone goes like, hey, Bower is awesome, and then someone goes, no, NPM is much better, no one is right and no one is wrong. One person might prefer the one thing, one person might prefer the other thing, they may have made different experience, and that's absolutely fine. Don't hate on them. So generally saying, people are not stupid. I highly recommend these 2 books, by the way. This one is on user experience design or UI design. And this one, The Field Guide to Understanding Human Error, I really believe you should all read it. It's about airline incident investigation, which is weird because you're like, what? I'm a software developer, not an airline traffic incident investigator. But actually, most things that they talk about can be applied to development as well, because people are people and people make mistakes. And most of the times we make it out really, really easy on us. If someone makes a mistake, you go like, oh yeah, that was stupid. Or oh yeah, that was just dumb, or whatever, or he was not in the zone or something. Or when you make a mistake, you're like, oh yeah, silly me, I'm sorry. But you don't really understand what led up to this. And the problem is when you do not understand what led up to this problem, you're likely to repeat it. Or if you don't repeat it, someone else on your team might repeat it. So if I delete the data from the production database, I can easily say like, oh yeah, I'm stupid, I'm sorry. And then 2 weeks later, someone else deletes data from the database. So are we just all a bunch of idiots? probably not. There's some situation that we tried to do something and then this went wrong. So how can we prevent it from happening? Maybe all I needed was look up some data, but accidentally went into the history and hit return on a delete statement that someone else had in. Maybe a read-only user solved that problem and then no data gets deleted anymore. Maybe the data shouldn't be not backed up so that it actually is not a problem if data gets deleted. It depends on the situation, but definitely it's more than just people are stupid, okay? Because sometimes we just get overwhelmed. So sometimes that's a little hedgehog in the middle of a river. I actually got into that situation myself. So Zurich has a wonderful advantage of having really clean river and lake, and you can swim down the river. And the cool thing is, so if the river goes like this, or if the river goes like this, then I live here. The office is here and I live here. So I live downstream. And it's actually pretty warm in Zurich. Or last summer it was like 35 degrees. So I'm like, actually, you know what? I'm gonna get a dry bag, put my stuff on, my clothes, leave my laptop in the office and just float down the river. So I could tell everyone I go swimming every day. And they're like, ooh, really? And I'm like, yeah, 2 kilometers. And they're like, ooh, that's amazing. And all I did was actually, because the river does the job, right? So that was cool. And then I told a colleague of mine, and he's like, actually, you know, you get out there, right? I'm like, yeah, I get out there. You could just continue floating down, and then you get at a really nice area. I'm like, okay, but everyone gets out there. So there must be something that makes everyone get out. And he's like, oh, yeah, no. It's a little dangerous at the sides from there, so you have to stay in the middle, and then it's safe, then it's good. I did that, and I floated down the river, and I'm like, oh, but there's like a little island in the middle with a tree on it. I can't really stay in the middle. So I gotta have to pick a side. Which side am I gonna go for? I gotta go on the right-hand side. So I swam to the right. I'm like, while floating in the river, I'm like, why is there waves on the river? Like, waves in the ocean makes sense, but where do they come from in the river? Pro tip, the answer to that question is, the water is really shallow and there's lots of rocks, and there's strong current. So I'm like, oh, wait. Does that mean that like I am in trouble? Yes, I am in trouble. And the fun thing is there was a sign on the other side that whooshed by and I couldn't read it. So it had something in red on it. So red text sign pointing towards me and then whoosh. Can't read it, but if it's important, there's a second sign. There was no second sign, so I just continued floating. And I got into such a situation where there was lots of rocks and I was like, oh my God, no. And I was twirled around like a pinball and I blood everywhere, and I clung to a tree, to a rock. Like I hang there and like this in the river, and then I start breathing again, and I'm like, okay, I may not be in life danger anymore. So I started realizing the situation around me, and like a meter ahead of me was another large rock with 2 teenage girls sitting on it, going like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm all good. And then I made the realization, if I want to get out of this river alive, I would have to get on their rock and then out. So it's like, okay, so I have 2 possibilities. Very, very awkwardly getting there and getting really close to them, or just floating down the river and die. I did not go for the second option. I went for the first option. I'm like, I'm sorry. And they're like, what the hell is going on with you? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I miscalculated. I'm sorry. And then I fucked off. So I survived that one. But yeah. By the way, I went back and figured out what was written on the sign. It's like, danger of death, get out of the river. Well, so much for that one. Pro tip, check out if the river is safe to float. Even though a colleague says it's safe, it doesn't mean that it has to be safe. It was not his fault, because theoretically it is safe, but the summer was so hot that the water level was actually pretty low, so that was why it was dangerous. So theoretically it would have been safe. Theoretically. Practically, cuts everywhere, like, blood. It's brilliant. I came out like a zombie, and I was like, what the hell? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. So, weird expectation to get down the river. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is there's a bunch of things that happen that an individual may not be able to have control over, and that makes us take the wrong decisions. That means, for instance, mental and physical health. So maybe you think if you run and get hit by a car, you run really fast and get hit by a car, that may be because you're just stupid and negligent, but it might actually be that for some reason some medication didn't work correctly and gave you the feeling that someone pursues you and wants to kill you, and then you run like a motherfucker and then you get hit by a car and you die. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's your fault, or not only your fault. There's organizational pressure. For instance, when I deleted bits of the database back in the days, that was because I was working in one critical bug, and then the project manager popped in and was like, Martin, you have to take care of this other critical thing. There's data in the database that needs to be removed. I'm like, okay, sure, yeah, whatever. And then I forgot a where statement, and then you know what happens. All the data goes away. Like, I'm gonna delete this one thing. That takes quite long. Oh wait, no, abort. Yeah. Friday afternoon, brilliant time. There's also other organizational pressures. For instance, you might want to not have a workaround that you consider dangerous, but someone pressures you, like, you want to keep your job, you're going to do what I tell you, and then you do it, and then it obviously blows up, and then it's your fault. So it's not as easy as saying, this person screwed up. You should ask, like, why did this person do this? There might also be environmental conditions. So what does that mean? Environmental conditions means something as simple as it was freaking hot in the office and people couldn't concentrate is a problem that makes the output worse and can lead to increased problems and defects and error rate. It could also mean that environmental conditions could also mean that you have, for instance, a really, really remote place that you have to go to, and there's only like one bus picking you up, and if you miss that bus, then you're screwed. So you actually rush things, and then you run to the bus, and then your problems basically come back biting you. Conflicting information is the worst. Conflicting information might, for instance, mean documentation says something else than the actual code does. So documentation says, oh, this is thread safe, and then it's not. That's a problem, right? And you did not do something stupid, it's just you had wrong information and you did not think you have to re-verify the information. Experience, intuition, that's another thing. If you're doing something that leads to a problem, maybe you did the exact same thing somewhere else and it actually solved the problem. So you have different experience than other people, and different experience from a different environment cannot be applied to the environment you're in right now. So it's not always, people are not stupid, it's not like that. So instead of thinking people are stupid, you should instead think people are actually trying to do their best but fail. And this is interesting, because if you think this person tried to do the right thing and then failed, that means that you're open to ask the question, why did this person fail? And this is the question you're asking, not should I fire this person? Because if you fire that person and the problem is in the organization, then the same problem will resurface. It's gonna happen again. And what are you gonna do? You're gonna fire the next one until you have no developers left? That's a bad idea. How about you ask yourself, why did this happen? And here's something that sort of comes from this book that I recommended, The Field Guide of Understanding Human Error. This is about controlled flight into terrain. This is a class of errors that lead to plane crashes. And what they say is, while there are many reasons why a plane may crash into terrain, pilot error is the most common factor. This is the Wikipedia article on controlled flight. And why is there a Wikipedia article on controlled flight in terrain? I don't know, but it's there, which is handy because I can quote it. So, while there are many reasons why a plane might crash into terrain, pilot error is the most common factor. So that means pilots are stupid or doing wrong things. Is that correct? Are they stupid? Are they idiots? Or are they just like, don't care? Are they sleeping? I don't know, right? So is it the pilot's fault? Let's have a look at the article again. The most common type of pilot error is the failure of pilots to know at all times what their position is. And that means like how high up over ground are they, where exactly on the terrain are they, like is the mountain here or is the mountain there, or where exactly am I, and what's my plane doing over ground. So they don't know this, and this leads to this problem. The thing is, knowing where your plane is and how it relates to the ground is not directly the job of the pilot. Yes, he has to make sure that he's or she has to make sure that they are on a certain position, and then in a certain relation to the ground, how high up, where exactly. But that's what they got navigational systems for. And these are computers. This is software and hardware, right? So the pilot looks at something and it tells him, you are here. And then the pilot goes, it's night, probably I am here. They got multiple systems telling them where they are. So they look at all of them and go, okay, looking at this information that I have, I guess we are here and we are safe. Boom. Is it still pilot error? The same Wikipedia article actually says, subtle navigation equipment malfunctions, software or hardware failures, which, if not detected by the crew, may mislead them into improperly guiding the aircraft into ground or into terrain. Pilot error. Lasers. I don't think this is necessarily the pilot error. In the end, it kind of is, sure, because the pilot has to make a decision. But this decision happens based on input. Input given by systems. If this input is misleading or problematic, they do things that are wrong. And this is what happens to us all the time. All the time. If you go to an airport and the airport display says gate A53, you go to gate A53. If your plane leaves at a completely different gate, B65, whose fault is it? You could say, well, it's kind of your fault because you have checked when your time was up, why the plane didn't display on the gate and the gate didn't open. But then again, if you're like, the plane isn't here, and you go to the information desk and go like, where the hell is my plane? And they go, look at the displays, and it's not really your fault. And it's also not really the fault of the information desk, because theoretically, the system should have given you correct information. And this is what happens in software too. So here is a dialogue popping up saying, are you sure you want to navigate away from the page? Press cancel to continue. What? And the best thing is like, are you sure? Okay or cancel. That already is stupid, but pressing cancel to continue. What? And then a lot of developers say, oh yeah, look here, when you debug something, like, oh, the user did this and then this happens, and you say, like, yeah, silly user. I mean, come on, why would they do this? So they clicked on OK and the page stopped doing the thing, so why are they blaming me? Because of this, you misled them. You should not do this. Okay, but it's not that we as developers are stupid and do this because we want to play games with the user. No. It may have looked like the right thing to do at the time. It's not, so we should fix it. Okay, but yet let's talk about JavaScript. That was very generic and everything was good, but now let's talk about JavaScript. There are strong opinions on the internet regarding JavaScript. Now, this is a JavaScript conference, so I don't think we're gonna hate JavaScript here. Some people might still do it. So who here loves JavaScript? Who here doesn't give a shit about JavaScript? Who here hates JavaScript? Brave? Brave to say so. I can point out the people to, harass afterwards. No, just kidding. So yeah, there's a bunch of very, very strong opinions on JavaScript. Yet, JavaScript is on the rise, and JavaScript seems to be pretty much everywhere. So why is it so popular? Why does everyone love not everyone. Why do so many people love JavaScript? Or why do some people who hate JavaScript still write JavaScript? Right? To be fair, I don't hate it, I don't love it. It's a tool. I don't say, oh, I love this hammer. It's so good when I have to get nails in, and it's so awesome, and I can screw screws in as well, and I can drill holes with my hammer. That's silly. I'm sorry, it's a tool. It's a good tool for certain things, but it's not the tool. It's not the only tool that we've got. The mic is weird. So basically all you need to get going, as I said, is a browser and maybe a text pad. You don't even need a browser. You can also just install Node and get going right away. You don't need really an editor because you can type Node and then you get an interactive thing where you can literally try your things out. So what it does is this REPL, the read eval print loop, right? You press some keys, you hit return, it does things, you read the output, and then you repeat. You keep going until you have the result you want. So this is great, and there's lots of great resources and lots of help available. So there's like IRC channels, there's user groups, there's meetups, there's mailing lists, there's Slack channels, there's Twitter, there's Stack Overflow, there's all these communities that help you. And the cool thing is these two are actually the keys, because there's also many environments. So you can use it for all sorts of weird things. I met someone, God, I keep forgetting her name. Damn it. She does all these weaving things. So basically, she's a web developer, but she wanted to do like weaving with literal yarn. and she found a programmable device. And so she wrote a bunch of node modules to actually have sort of like a program that then does things with textile, which is amazing. Cosima? No, not Cosima. I would have to check out her name again. I keep forgetting names. I'm really bad at names. I barely know my own one. So earlier this year I got married and I changed my last name. So every now and then people go like, Mr. Splitt. And I'm like, Mr. Splitt. Oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, sorry. Happens. So what makes JavaScript really amazing is that we can use it in all sorts of environments. There's microcontrollers running JavaScript. There's the browser. There's the backend. Someone had a weather balloon go up into the atmosphere using JavaScript. So this is pretty cool, and there's great resources. There's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of tutorials, there's a lot of community happening. And this is kind of the reason why we gather here, right? There's a lot of communities everywhere that we can go to and meet people with similar problems and similar experiences, and different problems and different experiences. When I meet someone who's doing JavaScript, if I go like, have you been using WebGL? I have. So if he has a problem with WebGL, he can ask me. And that's awesome. But maybe, so what are you doing with JavaScript?
Performance engineering.
Performance engineering. See, I have had a bunch of memory leaks and issues with Node.js performance, so I could go to him and ask him. Amazing, thank you very much. And this is the cool thing, and maybe there's someone doing microcontroller stuff with JavaScript here. Is there someone doing microcontroller things with JavaScript? There's one. Awesome. There's another one. See, that's what I mean. There's so many different people here doing so many different things, and that's what makes JavaScript interesting and amazing. There might be someone doing some post-CSS stuff in JavaScript here as well. Who knows? And it's awesome because you get to learn from each other. And this is a strength. This is not a problem. However, that also means JavaScript is really cool because it's never going to give you up and never going to let you down and never going to run around and desert you. Consider yourself rickrolled. Anyway, so JavaScript really allows you to quickly try something out, which is nice. You don't have to wait for a compiler. You don't have to install much software. You can literally open your browser, open the JavaScript console, and type away. You can easily use it for different things, microcontrollers, games, all that kind of stuff. And it's available for all sorts of platforms and devices. There's a bunch of people going like, look at the cool thing I did in Objective-C. And I'm like, I have no iOS device and no OS X device. I'm sorry. And they're like, ah. And it's like, look at this cool Windows program that I built. I'm like, cool. I run Linux. I don't know. And then maybe I'm like, hey, look at this awesome tool that I wrote for Debian that does these things. And then my friends go, doesn't solve a problem on my MacBook. So the cool thing with JavaScript is if I do it as a node thingy or if I use Electron, then I can basically bring it to everyone and share this with everyone, which is nice. So that means we can include a bunch of people, anyone, anywhere, anyway, any place, anywise, anybody, anyhow, anytime, doing anything, which is amazing. However, that also means that we have to be careful what we assume from the people we are working with, right? Not everyone is a computer science student or has a degree on it. Not everyone has done computer science. Not everyone has done a lot with programming. Maybe they just started, maybe they have studied something completely different. I have a colleague. She is an amazing software developer, but she studied biology. So she spent her time in the woods in Canada doing something that I do not even understand, that I do not even begin to understand. She's like, yeah, we did this thing with plants and blurb, and I'm like, what? Another colleague of mine, she studied pharmaceuticals, and she's like, oh yeah, we used plants to grow a certain kind of medicine. I'm like, wow, oh my god, how the hell do they? So basically they programmed plants, right? And now she's a brilliant JavaScript developer as well. So they come from very different backgrounds. And not everyone does front-end, so it's like, oh, by the way, you know, React, and then some people might go, no, I just do Node. I don't know about React. It doesn't solve a problem I'm having. The other way around as well, like, oh yeah, I have this amazing database thingy that I use, and I cluster it, and I spread it out a bunch of different machines, and I scale it, and it's very reliable, and it follows the CAP theorem, and blah, blah, blah. It's consistent, and it's partition tolerant, but it's not very available. Fair enough. And then you talk to a front-end developer, and he goes, cool. Don't know. Also, we don't use the same tools. So if you go on about Yeoman and the coolest generator that you found, I may not be using that tool. And not everyone has a MacBook or Windows laptop or Linux laptop, or some people may only have a phone. I met people not having computers, which is interesting. But you can do a lot of things when you hook up a phone to a larger screen using like Wirecast or something. Not everyone has fast internet. So if installing your tool actually installs 5,000 bazillion node modules taking up a gigabyte of space, that's probably bad. So make sure that your assumptions are verified, and don't make them feel foreign. Don't make them feel alienated. By alienated, I mean like, so you're talking about something like, hey, so by the way, vertices and vertex buffers, and then people go, what? And if I make you feel like I should know, like you should know this, then I'm doing it wrong. If I make you feel like you should know something that you don't know, then I have an assumption that is incorrect. And that can drive people away. If everyone goes like, oh, as you know, heap sort, and then you go on about sort algorithms. Some of you may have had them in university because you had a CS degree, some of you may not. Don't feel bad about it. It's just how it is. Some people have come from different backgrounds, and that's not a bad thing. So what can you do to keep the community amazing? So if you haven't noticed, the awesome part of JavaScript is its community. It's you. It's all of you. So what can we do to keep this community amazing and great and growing? First things first, open source. Share your code. Let the other developers figure out how you do things, how you solve problems. You may learn a thing because someone else might go, you know what, if you do it slightly different, then you get this and this benefit from it. And you get a discussion that is actually fruitful. Also share your learnings, write blog posts, write tweets, whatever. Write short bits and pieces, comments in the code, readmes, whatever you want to write them. Because you should actually share what you have done. And that doesn't mean, oh, I'm awesome, I'm always doing the right thing at the first try. You're not. You are failing all the time, and then you get the right thing at the end. Share the way there, because it might look like you're a hero, and you are a hero. Each of you is a hero. However, that doesn't mean that you always do the right thing. You try something, you fail, you try again, and that's what makes you a hero. You keep trying until you actually solve the problem. Share these stories, all right? Help answering questions, don't be jerks. If someone asks you how to solve something in, not a number. In a nutshell, JavaScript in a nutshell. Don't assume things, as I said, which means do not think that if someone needs a jQuery solution that they might be stupid or something. They may have to use jQuery for some reason, or they can't use the right thing. So basically what you should do is suggest a JavaScript solution that doesn't use jQuery, and then also suggest a jQuery solution. Or at least tell you, I don't know the jQuery solution to this problem, but here's one that doesn't need jQuery. And then they can pick the answer that helps them the most. But don't be like, oh, jQuery is so outdated, you shouldn't be using it anymore, it's just taking up space. Don't be like that. You can say, by the way, there's a way of doing it without jQuery, but do not force this onto people. If they figure out that they have a problem with jQuery, they're going to replace it, and that's good. Also, documentation doesn't write itself. I know most of us don't like to write documentation, but actually it's kind of interesting because you have to figure out how to explain something to someone without knowing this thing that you know already. So you basically go back into your own life and figure out what you did to understand this, and then you can try to sort of bring this to other people. Tutorials is the same thing. And never forget, you're amazing, but you have started somewhere. And this place has been confusing as hell. And there has been a lot that you had to learn to get where you are. So you do not get to shout at people who don't know the things that you know. You get to help them. And that's amazing. And with that, I suggest a bunch of things or a bunch of initiatives that help other beginners to start. It's a safe place for beginners to start getting into things. There's Open Tech School. There is Rails Girls Summer of Code and just Rails Girls. Doesn't have to do with JavaScript, but gets people into programming, which is nice. There's Node School. So Node School is a bunch of programs that you can install on your computer and interactively learn writing Node, which is amazing. There's Hacker Garden, where people just casually come together and work on problems together. So you can go there like, I tried to do this and it didn't work. And then there's someone who's coming with you and goes like, oh yeah, I know how this works and why this is a problem. and you support your local meetup. Supporting means ask the organizers, can I help with something? That can be something as simple as putting up chairs before the meetup. It could be as simple as cleaning up the room afterwards. It could be as complicated as providing rooms or technology that they need. Maybe they don't have access to a good beamer, so if you have access to a good beamer and you can borrow it from your office, do so. Maybe they don't know where to host, help them host it somewhere. So help your local meetups as well, grow your local communities. If there is no local meetup, if there is no local community, you are your local community. Try to figure out if there's other people interested in this. Start a meetup group, for instance, or just go on Twitter and like, hey, I created a My City here JavaScript Slack channel. If you want an invite, just ping me, and then people may come. And maybe you end up with a community with like 500 members. Maybe you only end up with a community of 20 members or 10 members. But still, that's 10 people that can talk to each other and help solve problems together, which is amazing. Also, hiring opportunities. If they are unhappy in their job, they may join your team, maybe. Who knows? With that, I'd like to say Дякую, I think it is. Спасибо. Спасибо большое. And please, let's keep this community amazing together.